Hey guys, how's it going? Alright, I have something new for you today. Let's step forward a little bit there. Oh, what is that? That looks like the number 2 versus the number 1. Yes, I have joined the dark side. I am playing a partners deck. This is definitely an example of if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. Although honestly, I haven't found the partners deck to be unbeatable. I found it to be oppressive and omnipresent. And certainly a scourge that kind of looms large over the entire 1v1 format. And I think it was yesterday or the day before, Wizards of the Coast announced some new bannings, and I of course expected there to be some either outright banning or at least some adjustment to the partner mechanic online, and neither of those things happened, which means by far the most degenerate and unfair mechanic that exists in this format, which is the partner mechanic, which allows you to effectively have a 9-card hand and access to undercosted generals the entire game, is still going strong. They banned Baral, Chief of Compliance, at least. That was long overdue and should have taken place like 4 months ago, as soon as it was obvious how degenerate and unfair and stupid that deck was. But they finally banned him, and they banned Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, to at least solve that problem for the long term. I still think that there are a ton of cards that are problematic in the format, and banning the tutors, although cheap 1-mana tutors, I think was not a particularly good answer. All that's managed to do, really, is kind of put the final nail in the coffin of the devoted multicolor control decks like Brea. I think that I haven't tested the Brea deck in this post-banning world, mainly because the ban hasn't gone live yet, as you'll obviously see in this game that's upcoming. But my expectation is that the Brea deck and control decks like it is too dependent on the situational tutors being able to tutor up silver bullets and stuff. And by removing all 5 of those tutors, and we actually played all 5 of them, you're kind of just left to the mercy of top decking. And top decking is not a good strategy when you're playing a control deck. You either have to play massive card advantage, or you have to play tutoring, or you have to play both. And the Brea deck certainly leaned in the direction of playing with tutors to fetch solutions. And without those tutors, I think that the Brea deck is just going to find itself needing an answer off the top of the deck way too often against kind of focused, good stuff, mid-range, control, aggro decks, and so on. Kind of similar to this one. I think you're just not going to be able to beat decks like this consistently. I mean, you're already probably at least even money, maybe an underdog against them to start with, and the loss of those 5 cards I think is too much to circumvent it. Definitely, the bannings definitely don't hurt a deck like this nearly as much. Anyway, I've got a bunch of experimental ideas in this deck. My 2 partners, as you may imagine looking at my hand, you can see 4 colors, green, black, blue, white, are Thrasios, Triton Hero, and Tymna the Weaver. Probably the 2 best pure raw power partners that are still left after the banning of Vile Smasher. And there's Crom, Ludwig's Opus, which is decent. I think the Commander's kind of shitty. Obviously, it gives you access to red mana along with blue. But I think in terms of what this deck is trying to accomplish, Thrasios is better. You lose a few key red cards, namely the 2 excellent red planeswalkers in Dak Faden and Duretti, and you also lose access to Vandal Blast and maybe a few other things. But in exchange, you get some amazing green cards, like this guy, like Draga Tree Speaker, Knight of the Reliquary, obviously Sylvan Library, and there's some other great stuff that's in green too. And the natural card advantage that Thrasios provides is really good too, because he allows you to flourish in a game environment where you've drawn a ton of mana and haven't drawn much other action. And of course, Tymna also draws cards and is certainly the best partnered general that's remaining. Okay, so starting off here, this is actually game 3 against Mr. 1.21 gigawatts. It's the Back to the Future reference. First 2 games we played, he was actually using Maelstrom Wanderer. This game he's switched over to Baral, although I didn't know that when the game started. So you'll see, I kind of just play into his turn 2 play, thinking that he was playing with Maelstrom Wanderer. But regardless, I can't keep this hand. And I've got a fair amount of tech cards in here. This deck is absolutely a work in progress. I was talking about the design with Nate a couple of nights ago, and he built his own version, which I thought had some good ideas, but I kind of wanted to take it in a more mid-range to late-game direction. So I have about, our decks are maybe 10 cards different or so. I've got a few different things in here. This is one of them in here. Manglehorn, just sort of the strictly better Uktabi Orangutan, which has given me fits whenever I've played against it. And I thought about that 3/2 first striking Thalia as well, the one that makes non-basic lands come into play tapped, but ultimately decided to cut it. This is just sort of a hodgepodge of amazing good stuff cards in these 4 colors, though, including Opposition, which is a card I haven't seen played too much, but is incredibly powerful, especially in a deck that has upwards of 30 creatures. But I can't keep this hand regardless. I'm going to go down to 7. And I get definitely a keepable hand, given that it's got Command Tower and Birds of Paradise. And there's a Godless Shrine on top, too, which is extra bonus, because I did not want to have to sit here on 2 mana, even though I had a Baleful Strix that I could cast to draw another card. And I've got Tezzeret the Seeker, who obviously you see I play in nearly every deck of mine with blue, because it fetches Winter Orb as well as good equipment. And Leovold, Emissary of Trust. Not my general, but such an incredibly strong creature that I felt it was worth including regardless. And I have Tasigur in here, too, although I haven't drawn him in any situation where he seemed exceptional. And that card's likely to be cut. I don't think it's going to make the cut. There's probably something a little bit more reliable if I'm going to play something in that range. So here we go. And he's going first, too. Just going to make this game really rough. And of course, the bans haven't taken effect yet, so he's just basically playing, I think, pretty much a net deck version of Baral. Alright, I'm drawing Godless Shrine, so I'm just going to play my bird here. Alright, he just does nothing. Alright, so I draw Glacial Fortress, and keep in mind that at this point in the game, I'm actually thinking I'm still playing against Maelstrom Wanderer, and he didn't show me any counterspells in the first 2 games, so I think that I can just play Leovold here with no worry. And the reason I'm going to decide to play Leovold here, not only is it the most efficient use of my mana, but also in case he's got something like Compulsive Research or Thirst for Knowledge or something at 3 mana, Leovold will totally host those cards. And those cards are actually commonly seen in Maelstrom Wanderer. So here we go. I run Leovold out, and he's got Counterspell, which is obviously to be expected. When as soon as he played that, I kind of went, what? Why are you playing with Counterspell in your Maelstrom Wanderer deck? And then I looked at his commander, and sure enough, it was Baral. So that's fine. It doesn't really change the game plan a whole lot. It definitely does make the Winter Orb plan off Tezzeret a lot more viable, though. And he plays Fairy Conclave, and I was kind of thinking, all right, well, why is he playing that? But then, of course, actually, I don't think I actually checked his commander until he played Fairy Conclave, because I was thinking there's no way he would ever play Fairy Conclave in a 3-color Maelstrom Wanderer deck. But it's actually quite good in Baral because it's a polymorph target that you can't counter. So Baral comes down. Fortunately, I've got one of my perfect answers to it in the form of Abrupt Decay. And there actually might have been some justification here for holding back. Because Abrupt Decay can't be countered, I could just play one of my creatures and then just sit on Abrupt Decay, hoping that he would invest, if he got lucky enough to draw it, he would invest a polymorph in his Baral, rather than, say, on the Fairy Conclave or something. And then I would be able to 2-for-1 him. But I decided I'm not going to even screw around. I'm just going to blow it up. And the reason I'm actually doing this is because I kind of want him to hit a 4th mana and replay it right away, which will allow me to trap him under Tezzeret the Seeker, and he'd be really stuck for a long time. And I'm not running Shackles in here, so that's a little unfortunate, but it would give me enough time to probably get equipment going and gobble up the Baral with a combination of the Baleful Strix and Umezawa's Jitte. So I'm just going to play... With that in mind, I'm going to play Baleful Strix here, not just because I want to draw a card, but also getting a flyer in play is really nice, because combined with Tymna, if he does replay Baral, Tymna plus Baleful Strix is an extra card every turn. And I draw Duress, which is super nice. I'm sorry I haven't given you guys a chance to actually see the contents of the deck. I'll try to do that next time I fetch something. Alright. 4 mana, so I'm thinking, okay, he's just going to play Baral again here, and instead he plays Proteus Staff. God, it's a disgusting interaction right there. And it super forces my hand. I really only have one play here unless I draw an answer to the Proteus Staff right away. And in fact, I think I have virtually no answers at all to Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. I think literally the only thing in my entire deck I can kill it with is this guy. So that's going to become the game plan if that's what it turns into. I'm hoping right now I can maybe buy enough time with Tezzeret the Seeker and Winter Orb, because it's going to require quite a bit of mana, 5 total, in order for him to activate Fairy Conclave and then flip it or whatever with the Proteus Staff into the Emrakul. So I'm going to just play Tezzeret here and hope he doesn't have a Force Spike, and he doesn't, which is awesome. I'm going to go, okay, here we go. We can show you what's in here. You guys want to take a quick look? Alright. This is the current build of the deck. So as far as cards in here that I'm really on the fence about still, Smuggler's Copter, not really sure about that. Aven Mind Sensor, Curse of Crufix, these are just like value cards. Cyclonic Rift, another one that's So Emrakul, the Promised End I'm running just for super top end and because it's just nightmarish to deal with. And let's see what other ones are non-negotiable or negotiable. Manglehorn, certainly negotiable. I like the opposition quite a bit. Oracle of Moldea I was on the fence about. Ramanop Excavator, it's just basically a Crucible of Worlds with legs. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, and then of course Tasigur. I'm certain I'm cutting Tasigur. The rest of the deck still experimental. There's a Woodland Delaware at the high end. I think Sun Titan might be pretty good in here too, as it gives you the ability to recycle a lot of the good mid-range permanents as well as fetch lands every turn. So I'm maybe trying to move Sun Titan into the deck in exchange for something like the Tasigur. Hey, they cost the same, right? 6 and 6. But still very much a work in progress. And people who are maybe familiar with this archetype, if you want to leave comments about cards that I may be missing that you could suggest, I'd be all ears. I don't think I want to run this suite of cheap mana elves, the guys that make green, mainly because I don't really have that much use for lots of green mana. So the elves that make lots of green mana aren't very helpful. And the same thing is true for the elf that makes black mana. Not too useful either. I guess maybe Dryad Arbor or Arbor Elf wouldn't be too bad. But anyway, that's the deck. So I'm going to go fetch Winter Orb, of course, right here. Clamp him down. Attack for 1. Get in there, Strix. Alright, so he has another land. He's got 3. So if he's got another land in play, so now I'm at a crossroads, right? If he has another land, then he can untap this 4th land, play a land. He's got enough mana to have Conclave tap to activate itself, and then he's got 3 mana to turn it into Emrakul. So I have to assume that that's what's going to happen. I could just run the Manglehorn out and hope that he doesn't have a counterspell, because if he does, at least he's going to be tapped out for quite a bit longer, and that would buy me some time. But the Manglehorn is so precious for crushing the Protean Staff, because even if I'm able to kill Emrakul once, if the Proteus Staff is just hanging out and he gets another creature, he can just, or another manland, he can just Proteus Staff again to get Emrakul. So I can't really afford to have the Manglehorn countered. But at the same time, I can't really afford to have him put Emrakul into play either. So I decide, unfortunately, since I'm 1 mana short here, and because I can't get a 2 artifact that makes 2 mana off of Tezzeret, I can only get Chrome Mox, which I wouldn't really want to do anyway, since I don't have any colored spells. So it's Mox Diamond really is the choice of what to get here. If I get Mox Diamond, that at least allows me to cast Manglehorn or the Duress, and just go from there. So I decided I just don't want the Manglehorn countered. I'd like to hang on to it, and I think in retrospect it probably would have been the correct play to just simply play the Manglehorn and hope that the only counterspell in his hand costs 3, in which case he'd have to completely tap out, and I'd have 4 or 5 turns with Baleful Strix plus Tymna potentially, and Tezzeret getting a sword and stuff. And that might have been enough to win the game, to be honest, because even if he gets Emrakul later, I'm going to have a lot of extra permanents to stack to it. So I think this was a mistake not casting it. Anyway, I go get the Mox, and I think about this for a little while, and I eventually decide I'm just going to Duress him. And I think I was just trying to be cute here, mainly because I figure, okay, so he's got Cryptic Command, which is gnarly, Stoic Rebuttal, and Desertion in hand, and I'm going to obviously take Cryptic Command, because Cryptic Command allows him to potentially bounce Baleful Strix, which is going to be my only out against the Emrakul. And he's got Tectonic Edge in hand, so he does have the 5th land, and so ultimately I decided to have him just discard the Cryptic Command. And I'm going to just tap out here and play Thrasios. My hope is, like, please cast Stoic Rebuttal and counter this thing. And he didn't go for it, because he knows exactly what's up. I'm not going to attack with Baleful Strix. And here we go. He did have that 5th mana. He actually drew an island that turn anyway, so he didn't even need to have a land in hand. You can see his deck over here. This is just typical Baral deck. Billion counters, some bounce, polymorph, usual suspects, reweave, etc. It's just very much a paint by the numbers net deck. All right, so Emrakul's out. How are we gonna soften this blow? Well, at least I have 3 mana back, and I draw a land, which is really handy too. So play Manglehorn and blow up the Proteus Staff to shut that off. For the time being, I'm going to actually use Tezzeret for 0 to go get that Chrome Mox and imprint it with nothing, so at least it's sitting in play, because that's another free permanent. and play the Savannah. And if you look at it right now, he's going to attack with Emrakul. I can block with Baleful Strix, and that then, thanks to a Death Touch on this little guy, I can take down a 15/15 with it. And as far as permanents to sack, I've got 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 lands. So it's actually not too bad. I'll emerge from this wreckage with 2 land, a bird, a diamond, and Winter Orb and Tezzeret the Seeker against an entirely tapped out mono blue opponent. So it's actually not really that bad. And he draws, he untaps 1 land and he wisely uses Tectonic Edge on my Savannah to limit my land choices. So it's just going to be these 3. I'm going to drop down to just the command tower. But still, Tezzeret plus a Mox is 2 mana, plus birds and 1 land is basically 4 mana under Winter Orb every turn, which is enough for me to replay my Thrasios and my Tymna, and I feel like I'm in really good shape. So he attacks. I go to Annihilate. You see me like clicking and unclicking permanents. And this is honestly one of my biggest complaints about... Oh, that's actually interesting. You can see them glowing there, I guess. I hate the way this interface works. I'm just going to complain and whine about it right now. But whenever you have to sack or untap multiple things, the indications on the cards are so subtle. There's no reason why they need to be this subtle. Like, why not have a big glowing field around each of them instead of these little tiny glows? Regardless, I feel like I click on 6 things and then it doesn't say that it doesn't give me the okay. So then I try like clicking on other stuff and you can see I'm like re-clicking and clicking, and eventually I select 6 permanents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ugh. I destroy my 2 blue mana sources. These things were intended, and I lose my Mox over the stupid Godless Shrine. Ugh, so annoying. This changes the game so much. I mean, at least I'm able to kill off this big stupid thing. But instead of being able to untap a Mox Diamond here and cast Tymna right away and have a thing to untap for extra mana off Tezzeret, I just have nothing. Which is really, really stupid. Very frustrating. Fortunately, he doesn't have much going on. He casts Serum Visions to go get land and doesn't get it. Alright, I get Thoughtseize there. I'm going to continue to untap my Winter Orb with Tezzeret, but at least I can cast Tymna now and start doing something. It's a second land. Alright, excellent. So time to use Tezzeret for 3. And go fetch the Sword of Feast and Famine, because that's the perfect card to have under Winter Orb. Throw it on Tymna. Bash. It's sort of like Sword of Fire and Ice in there too. I get to draw a card off of it, which is wonderful. And I gain 4 life per hit too, which is pretty ridiculous. And I get a land right away. So I'm going to Thoughtseize him. Yeah, sorry about that. I see he's got his Cryptic Command again, just like popped right back into his hand after he reshuffled. He still has Stoke Rebuttal and he has a Fabricate. So the last two cards are Stoke Rebuttal and Fabricate. And he's definitely behind the 8 ball. And I've just drawn Glenelendra, as well as the perfect answer to the Emrakul in the form of Sword of Temptation. He doesn't even bother to Fabricate. I guess he just doesn't have anything good to get. Okay, so before attacking, of course, I decided I'm just going to cast Thrasios here rather than the Glenelendra, just because obviously I don't want him to counter this, and I figure full well he might actually have to use Stoke Rebuttal on the Thrasios just to keep it out of play. But I'm not going to run a Glenelendra into that, and then he's got to Disperse to bounce my creature back. But that's all right. I'm going to untap my 2 artifacts, because every time he plays a spell into Orb, it just sets him further and further in the hole. Nothing going on. Alright, cool. Another land. I can just equip Thrasios then. Send him in. Bash. He loses his Stoke Rebuttal. And now, I feel the coast is pretty clear. I've already seen, I guess he reshuffled Counterspell, but I'm pretty sure he would have a hard time countering this, and I'm going to just slam Glenelendra Archmage with 2 blue mana up against a Baral deck and untap 2 artifacts. It goes back to his turn, and he draws the Proteus Staff again, and of course I'm just going to counter that just to remove it as a potential play, because I might let it, like maybe it would seem like I would let it go, but then he top decks Mishra's Factory or something, and suddenly out of the blue he's got Emrakul killing me again. So I don't even want to take that risk and counter it right away. And as soon as that happens, Mr. 1.21 gigawatts packs it in to put an end to this game. I thought this was an awesome game, actually, just because of having to make those decisions in the early going, tiptoeing around the counter spells, and ultimately taking an Emrakul Annihilator hit and losing 6 permanents, including one I didn't intend to lose, and that little humble Baleful Strix taking down the giant monster and ultimately winning the game. But it was a good demonstration of some of the mechanics that are going on in this deck. It is absolutely a work in progress, but I hope to play some more games and have some that are worth recording. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and again, in the comments, if you can think of anything in particular that I might not be using that would work really well in the deck, please let me know. See you guys soon.